Hi, Easy here. Welcome to a update to my Fire Chieftain Slam starter build. I am pretty decently into my Atlas progression, doing a T10 Crusader as a map showcase in just a second, and I am level 86 with about 22 hours played, good amount of strength, good amount of dex, etc. I think I got pretty lucky in my gears. I have like a 480 physical DPS weapon. I have a good amount of dex from my gear, such as these gloves, which gives me 50, good boots, good belt, etc, etc. I have a 5 link as my main damage links. And overall, I'll rate this starter a pretty solid 5 out of 10. When it comes to the leveling, it was like a 10 out of 10. I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Oh my god, like it does so much damage. But now that I'm in the maps and I've been mapping for quite a bit, it's starting to feel a bit lackluster. It's just one of those builds that needs an explode on kill effect. And that's the real truth. Some builds don't need that. Things like, lightning miners, ball lightning miners, arc mines, arc, storm brand, things like that. Like having an impulsa or something like enemies explode on kill chest is really nice for those builds, but by no means necessary. But I think for a slamming build, I think you really need it, like a two-handed slamming build. And I'll try to do my best to show you an example of why that is. Warcries in general, I think, have been extremely strong. I hate this map. I think Warcries are really strong. Okay, no mana. And they make you feel really powerful. There's a clear, like a super clear power behind these Warcries. You press it and you get this instant power. That's really nice. Like, it's a very satisfying button to press and see the effects of. And I've invested a lot of points into my Warcry, so that's why they're really fast. And as you can see, there's huge amount of AoE going everywhere. And you might say, oh, that doesn't look so bad. Why are you saying it's a bad starter? That's just the attack speed is too slow. The attack speed is too slow, and because the attack speed is too slow, it just feels really bad to dash from pack to pack. And I've even resorted to using something like Consecrated Ground or Consecrated Path because it's a built-in movement skill, right? And I felt like that was the best way to combat this clunky feel. Earth Shatter is really cool. I like Earth Shatter. Earthquake is always good. Sunder feels like shit, to be honest. I didn't really like Sunder. Perforate, it's whatever. But yeah, like, it just doesn't feel very smooth. And I think that's why this is one of those builds that just requires currency to work. You're not trying to get damage from currency, you're trying to get quality of life, which is cheaper, but you need things like, I think you need things like Tailwind, you need Elusive, you need all these extra movement speed bonuses. You need like Onslaught, which I do have Onslaught, and it just feels bad even with Onslaught. But you just need a lot of quality of life to be able to swallow this kind of slow playstyle. Here, I'll show you with Legion. I have not been using Infernal Cry during clears because the cooldown's too high, right? It's too high for you to use consistently. But you can see, like, it's so slow to get past like some of these packs, and if you don't one-shot these, you've wasted your time. And the only way to consistently one-shot them is with something like enemies explode on kill, because you can easily chain that damage that you've done to the boss or trash mobs onto bigger and stronger mobs. And that's why I feel like it's almost mandatory if you want to have any decent clear speed. Like, if you want to have a good smooth clear with this kind of two-handed slow attack speed, then you really need the explode mod. It's kind of like the Blade Vortex Blade Vortex without impulses or without on kill effects. It just doesn't feel as good as if you have one. So I'll show you the boss damage right now. This is one of the areas that I really don't feel like is an issue. It's actually bossing. It's quite strong, although I might run out of mana. Yeah, Enduring Cry is amazing. Enduring Cry is like one of the best things that they've... I think it's gonna be used by almost every single build. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my skitter bots because I don't have enough mana. Yeah, I just tried to fit it in just now, so it's been pretty hit or miss. Yeah, but I've been... Like, it might seem slow, but you gotta keep in mind, this is like tier 10, right? Actually, it might be higher than tier 10. It's monster level 77. Mud Geyser. Yeah, it's a tier 10, right? And it's bossing is fine. It's just mapping is so clunky. Having these mobs just live like that while you run around, even with Herald of Ash and the extra ignite that comes from our damage, we get some fat ignites. It's just still not good enough. Like when you use Infernal Cry, it clears like a dream. So let me try and find another pack. I don't know if there is another one. There doesn't look like another one. I'll go to Blood Aqueducts to showcase. But when you have Infernal Cry, it just feels nice. It hits that spot, right? It hits that pop spot. But when you don't have it, it feels like trash. And I think that's the main problem. Here's without. Right? Okay, these guys die instantly anyways, but here's with. There's this huge difference in terms of how much it clears outside of your range. I don't think I'm doing a very good job of showcasing because of how much damage I'm doing to these guys. But there is a difference when you get to higher maps and we're not one-shotting. You don't have enough damage to one-shot the rares. And especially when mobs start spawning from things like Beyond, or mobs that inherently spawn trash afterwards. It's just, there's a big difference, right? And I'm not saying this to shit on my own build. I think the mechanic itself is fine. I think the mechanic itself is perfectly good. I think they've overdone some of the numbers, especially considering we get access to so much damage early on with the Harvest Leap crafting. But yeah, this just doesn't feel good. There isn't enough quality of life. A lot of our power is locked behind War Cries, which is good. It makes them meaningful to press, but when you're mapping, you don't want to press these War Cries every 5 fucking auto attacks, right? Like, I'm pressing this so often. And if you use instant War Cries, then you can't use a combination of exertions, which is also a lot of power. You can stack Seismic, you can stack Intimidating, and you can stack Infernal, and all 3 of these have their separate exertions. And you can slam and have all 3 of these effects, give you the benefits. And that's a huge amount of damage that you can't access if you take the instant Warcry node. Even something like Enduring Cry. Let me try to... Can I degen? I cannot degen. Even when you have low life, right? You can hit Enduring Cry and this recovers almost my entire life bar. And it's on a 3-second cooldown, right? It's really strong. But if you're trying to use other War Cries, then you can't put points into it. And having to War Cry every 5 hits, it's just counterintuitive when it comes to mapping, because you want to map, on a pretty quick pace. The only solution that I see to this kind of bad feel is either a pop chest, which allows you to bypass the fact that you're going to have stragglers, or you have higher attack speed, which is counterintuitive to mechanics like War Cries, which have limited amount of exertions, and Fist of War support, which has a fixed cooldown of 1.8 seconds. So maybe you just ignore Fist of War, you ignore Warcry and just use it whenever you can. I don't know what the answer is, right? I'll need more currency, I'll need more gear, I'll need more time to figure out what the answer is. But right now it just doesn't feel very good as a starter. Damage is fine, everything's fine except quality of life. That's the main problem. I think defense is fine as well. I have 6,000 life very comfortably. I don't even have that good of gear, 60 life here, 50 life here, 50 life, 70 life here, 20 life here, 70 life. Like, it's by no means impressive. I have like 190% life on the tree. So, it's just very generic amount of life. Pretty good. Enduring Cry gives us a ton of damage resistance. I think once you get the 4th Ascendancy lab, you can either go with something like Valakos for perma endurance charges, because we'll be war crying every now and then, obviously. Or you can go with something like the cover enemies in Ash with fire damage leech. You could probably go either way, but none of these solve the fact that we have issue with clear speed, and that's the main thing. I think the right way to build this kind of character, if you want clear speed, is with a lot of currency to support the quality of life. Things like pop chests, things like elusive or tailwind boots, even going crit with like, I don't know, just something to make it feel faster, feel better, more movement speed. What we have right now is not the answer. I think what we have right now is perfect for bossing. I think for bossing, it's a really, really good way to boss, because the main issue that slow two-handers had is that a lot of its damage was locked behind damage per second. You needed to be able to constantly hit the boss, but because you had such a slow attack speed, you didn't have a lot of windows to hit that. But now that we have exertions, and something like Fist of War support, you can dodge all you want, and then you don't lose as much damage as if you just didn't attack, because a lot of our damage is locked behind these limited quantity, behind exertions and behind a flat cooldown. So maybe this is more of a bossing build, right? Maybe that's the answer. Or maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. Maybe we just have high attack speed. We just ignore the fact that we use a two-hander, use dual wield, and just have high attack speed, and we use war cries very liberally just for bosses. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. I don't have the currency to test that. I don't have Orb of Regrets. I actually have like 0. I just use them, and I just don't have the resources to be able to test that right now, especially in Soul Self-Found. It is by no means a failure. It's by no means a bad build. In fact, I think it's a great build. It feels really good. It feels really satisfying, especially with a good Herald effect. It just needs a bit of quality of life that we can't get without good resources. That's all. I'll most likely revisit this build later down the line, especially as a Berserker maybe. So there's still definitely room for improvement. But for now, I think I'll move on to my next build. I think I'm pretty happy with the progress that I made on this character. I want to try something else that I've been meaning to, which is Penance Brands. So I'll give that a shot. But I'll go into detail on like how I've built the character for those who are still interested. As for the passive tree, I've decided to take Unwavering Stance, because there'll be many times where my war cries will get stunned. I've been using Axe because that's what I was given. I got a really decent Axe with, once again, 480 physical DPS. I've opted to not go for Imbalanced Guard and Soul of Steel, because with endurance charges and my flask up, I will have enough physical damage reduction to hit that cap of 50% without needing the double armor effect. So I didn't feel like it was necessary. I've also opted out of Soul of Steel because it's just inefficient if I don't take that. Outside of that, I still have Resolute Technique. You will definitely want to take this off as you get more currency, and you can support having accuracy on your gear, having enough, having like Enlighten to support your aura, so that you don't have to have so little mana. And also things like lower mana cost on skills would be nice. You know, Infernal Cry has a mana cost of 21 because it's supported by combustion. So having 2 accessories with -9 to mana cost would be like free. Same thing here, 29 and 29. So these would be practically free. And even like our Consecrated Paths, it's on the 5 link, it's at 23 mana. So if you have 3 accessories, it all becomes free, which makes your mana not an issue. So I think that's one way to push it. I didn't get a chance to anoint anything because I didn't encounter enough black mechanics to get the oils that I want. But yeah, I think overall the build is fine. I think I'll go with the Berserker next time. I think having the fire didn't provide as much clear as I wanted it to with Herald of Ash. I think that's the main drawback. I think having the cooldown is just too high on something like Infernal Cry to make use of it consistently. That's another issue. And the attack speed is just a bit too slow, even with attack speed nodes. So I think once again, this is a build that needs currency. This is a build that needs just more quality of life to function well. Outside of that, all of my gear is very generic: life resistance, life resistance, life resistance, life resistance, right? There's nothing really special to speak of here. But yeah, we'll revisit this build. We'll revisit it in the future. But hope you guys enjoyed the update, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.